Good evening, everybody. It is April 3rd, 2022, and tonight we're going to be walking around Midtown Manhattan and doing a markets look ahead. As of about 10:50 Eastern Standard Time, the S&P 500 E-mini futures contract is down about 10 points, or a negative 0.21%. If we have a look over at the NASDAQ E-mini futures, or the NASDAQ 100, ticker symbol NQ, we are also down about 53 points, or about 0.36%. And if we take a last look over at the Dow Jones Industrial Average futures, ticker symbol YM, we will see that the Dow is down about 70 points. So it seems like all the markets are down fractionally. If we take a look at crude oil, so as we've been talking about on the stream, very, very important to look and see if crude oil will hold its 50-day moving average at about $100. At the time of filming this live stream, crude is down about $1 to 98 bucks. Looks like it's broken that 50-day moving average, but the night is still early. I think we have a lot of time, so let's watch that. Crude oil is going to be pretty much the driver of this market. Obviously, when we have crude oil higher, that usually tends to give a little bit of a boost to that energy sector, thus in turn boost the financial sector and boost the S&P 500. So we will get started in just a minute here, but a couple of interesting facts here coming out of Barron's, and then I will see who else is in the chat here. But about 35% is U.S. corporate profit growth in 2021, the highest since 1950. So 35% U.S. corporations grew profit 35% in 2021, and that is the highest corporate profit since 1950. 2.14 million barrels of Russian oil shipped by sea in the week ended March 21st. That is the lowest in nearly 8 months. And 135 is the number of terawatt hours of energy consumed by the global Bitcoin industry, more than the entire country of Norway at 124. Pretty interesting stuff, guys. Talking about Bitcoin, speaking about Bitcoin, we're going to be flying to Miami. Yes, we will be in Miami very soon for the 2022 Bitcoin conference. We'll get the pleasure to see a lot of keynote speeches from some of the industry's most notable people. So let's see who we have in the chat. Happy Sunday, everybody. Hope your weekend was well. I see Bianca M. I see Joe C. Sebastian says hey. Welcome. Brian, welcome. Jane M. says hello. Billy Breeze says, hey, bro, good to see you. Shauno is here from Detroit, as always. Good to see you, Shauno. We're going to be walking uptown towards the Moynihan train station. It may be a shorter stream than usual, so just bear in mind. Let me just put my backpack on, and then we will head out. NNB 045 is here. Says, hey, Tom, and happy Sunday. Good to see you, NNB 045. Tyree says, hey, Tom. What's up, Tyree? Good to see you. Well, I hope everybody had a good, restful, and relaxing weekend, because tomorrow's a big week. You know, technically it is, well, technically on Friday it was the start of the quarter, but, you know, really this is the first solid week of Q2. So I hope everybody closed out Q1 with a bang and all rest up and recharged for a good start to Q2. Middle class. Good to see you, middle class. Arum Z says, sup Tom, how was your day? Good to see you. Sally says, Tom, I hope you're staying warm. Thank you so much. Kevin says, good evening, Mr. Tom. Sally is here. Tyree. Bernard Friedman. Good to see you, Bernard. Welcome. Loud says, Miami is based. Ron DeSantis, man. Good to see you. Roy S says, hey, Tom and everybody. Hope your weekend is enjoyable. It was pretty good. The weekend was pretty good. How about yourself? Michelle K says, hello, Tom and everybody. And I think I see Otto here and buy the book. Welcome, Otto. Vinny Castellano says, good evening, my friend Tom. Hope your evening is well. Vinny Castellano from Staten Island. I am doing exceptionally well tonight. I did want to say thank you, Vinny Castellano. I did get your email. Absolutely beautiful. Congratulations. Looks like a very, very beautiful child there, so thank you for sharing that with me, and I'm wishing your family a very, very happy Easter as the week progresses. So thank you, Vinny Castellano, for sharing that with me. Al Baker says hello from Hollywood, Florida. Good to see you. Middle class says, what's a good HOA rate in Miami? So I'm not really too sure, to be totally transparent with you. I'm not a big fan of HOA. So when I purchase my investment property, I am not in any sort of condominium. Not a big fan of HOA. So I can't really answer that question. Hey, Mike Bell, says Catherine Wood under fire for saying Fed would not raise rates with the inverted yield curve. Yeah, so we did have a slight inversion, at least on part of the curve. So the 10 and the 2s, to your point, that 10-year U.S. Treasury yield, for a brief point, inverted with the 2-year Treasury, and a yield curve inversion. For those of you who don't know, it's usually when the shorter-term dated bonds now yield higher than longer-term bonds. Vinny Castellanos says, you're always welcome, watching WrestleMania and you at the same time. Very cool, Vinny. Vinny, also send my regards to Maria Castellano. Hope you two had a great weekend as we are outside of 51 Astor Place, the IBM building. Edson says, hey, Tom, and good evening. Welcome. Edson. Samantha R. says, hi, Tom, and everybody. How are you? I'm doing really good. We are here at East 8th Street, but tonight we're going to be walking uptown. We do not have enough time to check out Chinatown tonight. Tyler Silva says, hey, New York is Sunday night. It's good to see you, Tyler. Welcome. Roy S. says, Tom, Astor Place. This is Astor Place. Middle class is not sure how IBM is still relevant. Yeah, so I think IBM is going through some transformational changes, which we'll talk about on a later stream. Actually, a recruiter at IBM reached out to me for an enterprise account executive position again for the Turbonomics team. So I think IBM is really trying to make their big push towards the cloud. But you are right. You know, middle class, I think IBM was one of those companies that just got way too big, way too many employees, and they sort of, got stagnant, sort of stopped innovating. Triple G is watching you in 1080p. Thank you for the stream in HD. Thank you, Triple G, for being here. Santos is beautiful clouds. Good to see you, Santo, my friend at Triple G. Edson is here. Says, hey, Tom, and good evening. Welcome, Edson. So another weird thing, we've been in New York for about 2 weeks now. The weather has been very, very cold. It's usually not this cold this time of year, to be totally honest. It has just been absolutely freezing and rainy. So almost every single day so far has been extremely cloudy, rainy. So hopefully tomorrow the weather is a little bit better. Edwin says, hello, watching from the Philippines. Welcome, Edwin. War Walker says, good Sunday to you, beautiful people. Good to see you, War Walker. War Walker is joining us from the 305. I'm sure the weather in Miami is much better than it is here in New York. To give you some perspective, it's already April, right? And it's almost like it's winter outside. It's that cold. Bernard says, it's for the second or third year in a row. Good to see you, Bernard. Let's see who else we have in the chat. Samantha R. Roy S. Good to see you. Demtix says, hey. Kevin Lanes says, good evening, Mr. Tom. Welcome. Arum Z says, what's up, Tom? How was your day? By the book. Welcome. Good to see everybody. Lilith says, I agree about IBM coming stagnant. They got left in the technological dust. Yeah, I mean, I think the majority of people, when you say IBM, you think of those big mainframes, right? But, I've been on the fence about IBM. All right, I've been on the fence about IBM. They just recently sold off their Watson unit, their healthcare Watson unit. And, under this new leadership, under this new CEO, I think they're going to make a big push towards the cloud. And they are actively recruiting for their Turbonomics team, which maybe as the weeks progress, we'll talk about that a little bit more. I see my friend Charlie Richardson is here. Welcome, Charlie. Good to see you. I've never been here. I just wanted to point this out to everybody. We always walk past it, but never been in person. So this is the Amsterdam Billiards and Bar. Has anybody ever been here? Supposedly it's a really good time here. Alan Wilson says, good evening, Tom. Did you ever find your ATM card? I did not. I did not. So tomorrow, Alan, I'm going to go into the bank. And I am also going to get some cash so I could buy those 2 books. But good to see you, Alan Wilson. It's always a pleasure to have you here. Wendy England says, good evening. Welcome, Wendy. Nirvana Fan 500 says, hello. The mic sounds clear today. Yeah, so Nirvana Fan, I think the main difference between... I think the main difference between today and yesterday is that yesterday the wind was insane. The wind was absolute insanity. So sometimes, even though we have a microphone with the sort of wind barrier on there, look at all this trash. When it's windy, the microphone can sound a little bit muffled. Hey, Jose says, good evening. Jimmy B, what's up? Paradoral says, love your stream, Tom. Getting addicted to it. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Much appreciated. On tonight's stream, we are going to be doing a markets look ahead. A lot of economic data coming down the pike. I think it's going to be a big make or break week for the stock market. Crude oil, I think, is going to be the one to watch because crude, as we've written about, I think over the past 2 or 3 weeks now, in the Behind the Street newsletter, when crude hit 130, I told everybody, I'm like, look, I would not be going long crude here. If anything, I would be using all of this liquidity to start to unwind your position, right? And so this is what I mean by that. If you remember 2 or 3 weeks ago on the stream, you turned on CNBC, you turned on Bloomberg, you opened up Barron's or any sort of financial media. What was the talk about? Well, the talk was about Russia, the oil prices are going to skyrocket, oil is going to $200, $300 a barrel, everything is going to go crazy. You know, when you see that type of rhetoric on the mainstream channels about get long a specific trade or a specific sector, that's probably when you should be scaling out of those positions, right? The time to buy crude was at $30 a barrel, not $130, right? So I think if you were long energy, if you were long the financials, I think it was pretty wise to start to pull some profits there. So crude has since come down to about $100 a barrel. And if we look at the 50-day moving average, it's right at $100 a barrel. And as of now, if you type in ticker symbol CL, that is the crude oil futures contract, it's trading at about 98. So we've broken below that 50-day moving average. But we'll see how the trading day plays out tomorrow. But I think if we break the 50 on higher than usual volume, this energy trade could be over. Alan Wilson says, look at all that trash all the way down the block. Yeah, I know. We even got more right here. But to be fair, I do think that tonight is garbage night. War Walker, welcome. Tony Cortez, good to see you. Yeah, Rick Gordon's like, Tom, you could walk in the garbage. That is true, we can. Jack Tipper, good to see you. And I see Dutchman, good to see you, Dutchman. Ruby Falcone is here, good to see you, Ruby. Hope you had a good weekend so far. We're going to be walking back to the Moynihan train station. Lewis says, hey, Tom and everybody. Good to see you, Lewis. I see our pal Hemp Lord. Good to see you. Oh, the wind is starting to pick up now. Rich Gordon. Sheila Neal says, hello, Tom, and happy Sunday to all. Tony Cortez says, what's up, Walks from Wall Street. Happy Sunday. Good to see you, Tony. Jay is here. Says, hi, Tom. Good to see you, Jay. Wendy England is really chillaxed today, loving it. Good to see you. Chips and Dips is 80 degrees in Florida. How about New York City? You know, a little bit disappointed by the weather. It's been really cold, really rainy and windy and cloudy. But, you know, as they say, April showers brings May flowers. So hopefully May will be a little bit better. But check this out, everybody. Look at that view of the Empire State Building from here. Fantastic. Joey Tomberlin, welcome. Says hello to all. My friend Cynthia Beale is joining us tonight. Good to see you, Cynthia. And the one and only Falcon Space. Good to see you. Larch says I love you. Right back at you. And Hemp Lord says today was good. So what do you guys think of this view of the Empire State Building? I think this is one of my favorite shots of the Empire. Wendy England says it is very cold and miserable here in Vancouver as well. Cynthia Beale says, hola Tom, good to see you, Cynthia. Bernard Friedman says May will definitely be better. Well, we will be back in Miami very soon to cover the Bitcoin 2022 conference, so I'm looking forward to that. I think the weather should be good. So we'll see if the weather is going to be the usual 80 degrees and sunny there in southern Florida. Ray Legend. Good to see you, Ray Legend. Says, hey Tom, love your streams. Stay safe out there tonight. Thank you for saying that. I appreciate it, and thank you for watching. So you want to hear another interesting piece of data that came out of Barron's this week? You know, and we talk about the housing market all the time on the stream, but let's put things into a little bit of perspective here. So 19.2% is the annualized home price increase in January. That is above the 18.9% in December, according to the S&P CoreLogic Case Shiller. So 19.2% is the annualized single-family home price increase in January. So if you were looking to buy a house last January, and you're still looking now, you're looking at prices that are almost 20% higher than this time a year ago. Kind of crazy to put things into perspective, but interest rates are going up. That U.S. 10-year Treasury yield is sitting solidly above 2%. And what does that mean? That means that 30-year mortgage rate are on its way to 5%. Will that put a cap on housing prices? I guess we'll have to find out. What are your thoughts? Do you guys think that higher interest rates will put at least a little bit of a cap on these ridiculous single-family housing prices? Let me know your thoughts in the chat. Ruby Falcone, always good to see you. Alan Wilson says you don't have that view in Florida. Then again, you don't have all the trash either. Yeah, I think it's probably a give or take. Don't get me wrong, I love New York City. I think it's still the greatest place on earth, but I mean the weather's a little brutal. Evolved says housing is hard to get in New York City. I'm here now and everything seems so inflated. Yeah, I mean you do have a point. That's actually a really good point, because I think it's been almost 2 months now that we've been covering this topic. And the median rent in New York City is now $3,400. Isn't that crazy? $3,400. Wow, check out this tree. So it doesn't look like a cherry blossom, but I think it is. Does anybody know what this tree is? It looks beautiful though. It's like a very white cherry blossom. Evolves says, oh my God, yeah. So the median rent in New York City is $3,400. Chips and Dips says Union Square is full of crazies and NYU students. I think that's Washington Square Park. Washington Square Park is filled with crazies and NYU students. Not so much Union Square, but Washington Square Park can really get heated. Hey, Keisha is here, says hello. Good to see you. Johnny, let's see what Johnny has to say. Says yes, 5% interest rates will probably slow the price increases, but it depends on the inventory, which is very low here in Southern California. You know, I'm actually very interested in the California housing market in general, more specifically Southern California, because a lot of my buddies, you know, obviously working in tech, I have a lot of friends that live in Silicon Valley. Supposedly what they're saying is that there's a really big shortage in single-family homes in Southern California, and really all throughout California, because it is very hard to get a building permit or a permit to build new homes. Now, I was doing some research into it. It seems like that is true, but I would love to know a little bit more from an actual California native as opposed to speculating here as a New Yorker. Cynthia Beale says, winter is hanging on in New York City. I know. It's freezing tonight, Cynthia. My friend Bit of Wander. Good to see a Bit of Wander. Says, hey all. What's up, man? Robert Parker says, but note in September, when summer becomes fall, it's still summer. Like, Robert, you're right. I've been saying that. I think I had a conversation with my friend the other day. I'm like, it seems as if summer is lasting later into the year, but winter is also being extended, because sometimes we could even have winter weather into May here in New York, which is pretty crazy. Steph is here. Good to see you. Steph says, hey Tom. Gustavo says hello. Welcome, Gustavo. Kat is here. Says, renting is throwing away money, but the homes are too expensive. Yeah, so Kat, you are right, but what I will say is, I think the thought of homeownership is not always sunshine and rainbows, because, if you think about it, what happens if your air conditioning breaks in your apartment? You just call up the landlord and they fix it for you, right? What happens if the roof is leaking, right? Your landlord has to pay for all that stuff. But if you're a homeowner, all of that cost is now your responsibility. I love the sound of the skateboard. So I think renting makes sense for some people, but I think once you're well capitalized, and even especially, let's say if you're buying a duplex or a triplex, if you can buy a property that cash flows and the property is in pretty decent shape, maybe needs minor repairs, then I think buying is probably the better idea. But if you're a person that's living, paycheck to paycheck, doesn't have that much savings, I wouldn't rush to buy a house, because one bad accident and you're in a real world of hurt. But you do make a good point there. Water Blazing is here. Good to see you. Marcelo Gill says, hi Tom, your walking live is a picture for our eyes on Sunday. By the way, I and my daughter appreciate the kindness by filming UBS facade yesterday for sure. You got a new fan in Sao Paulo, Brazil. Hey, Marcelo. Thank you so much. Yeah, so Marcelo's daughter, I believe works at the UBS, which is further uptown near Radio City, which is right across the street from the Nürburger Berman building, where my friend works as well. So thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Hey, Robert's here. Says homeowners also pay a lot of interest on their mortgage. So that is true, but that's all a tax write-off. So all the interest that I pay on my mortgage, I actually just write it off. It's you could deduct it from your taxes. Ooh, man, that was a big rat. I'm not sure if you guys saw that. But yeah, I think, as interest rates creep up, hopefully this puts a little bit of a cap on the prices of homes. But this is what I will say, and this is an interesting piece of data which we've already covered before. About 25% of all new home purchases in the month of January were with all cash. So think about that for a second. 25% of every single family home that was sold in the month of January was purchased in all cash. I think the norm is 15%? I could be wrong on those numbers there, give or take, but that's significant. That means a lot of people are really well capitalized. So if people are buying houses outright with cash, what does that mean for the default risk? Well, there is none. You can't default on a mortgage if you don't have one. Yeah, Robert says, where do people get so much cash? Well, my speculation is that the top 10%, or the top, I'd say probably top 10 or 15% of the country has benefited from inflation. Right? Because in my eyes, inflation is very arbitrary. And what I mean by that is A lot of people say, oh, inflation is the CPI. So I'm just going to look at the CPI, and if it says 7.8% or 7.9%, well, that's inflation. Inflation is 7.9%. But to which I would say, I think inflation is very detailed based upon your personal life habits. So what do I mean by that? Let's say if you're an 18-year-old kid, you're living at home, you're not paying any rent, but you pay for a Netflix account and your cell phone. Well, then your inflation is pretty much like zero, right? If you order a Domino's pizza has been the same price for the last 15 years. Netflix subscription has been the same price for the last 8 or 9 years. But let's say if you want to buy a single family home. Well, single family houses, according to Barron's, 19.2% is the annualized home price increase in January from a year ago period. So what is your inflation rate there if you're a person looking to acquire a home? Your inflation rate right off the bat is 20% a year. It's 20% a year. Let's say this time last year, where was the S&P 500 trading? Right? That's your inflation rate. Your inflation rate is what your personal life is. So $500 can buy me a lot less in terms of ownership in the S&P 500 than it could back 5 years ago, right? So that's your rate of inflation. But if you're a person who just lives in your mom's basement, doesn't pay any rent, and just has a Netflix account, well, your inflation rate is pretty low. But if you're sending your kids to college, your inflation rate is probably 50%. So I think it's very relative. Wow, check out this view of the Empire tonight, guys. Scott says, that's incorrect about Domino's and Netflix. Well, I'm on a relative basis, right? Like, Scott, on a relative basis. Now, I mean, Netflix has been like, what, $15 a month? Maybe we raise it $1 or $2. The point I'm trying to make is, if you're spending money on like subscriptions, or you're living at home and you don't have to pay rent, your inflation rate is going to be a lot less than if you pay your own rent, which in many cities around the country, rent has gone up 30 or 20% in a year, right? That's the point I'm trying to make. Let's not like exact literal. I hope you get the thought process there. We have Jack Tripper. Good to see you. Al Baker's is Empire State Building. She's a beauty. I agree. Roy S. says, Tom, which one that is more dangerous, the current global economy? To the current global economy, crude oil price or chip shortage? Probably the chip shortage. Marcelo says, what are your feeling about houses prices concerning Biden's government? Will they increase up or down over the same? I don't really think it has anything to do with Biden more than it has to do with like the Federal Reserve printing money. But with interest rates going up, I think that, well, at least I hope. Let's say I hope home prices come down a little bit. Hey, Paul's here, says, love that town. Good to see you, Paul. Daryl says, good evening from Chicago, Illinois. Good to see you, Daryl. Scott says, Netflix has increased subscription prices. I understand, yep. Like $1 or $2, you're right. Michael Wells Jr. is here. Says, hey, Tom, hope all is well. On vacation, wow, very cool. Coming back next week. Well, hopefully we could see you back in New York City very soon. DeOrg rocks. Since the change in the tax code during the last administration, I've been getting killed not being able to write off my full interest payments on my house. Scott says, you spend a ton of money for a tight space, move out to Long Island by the beach, get a yard and a pool. Yeah, so I'm from Long Island, and I was going to buy a property there, but I can't justify the $15,000 to $20,000 a year property tax. I think that's just insane. Bowser's here. Says, hey, Tom. Hope you're doing great. Thank you, Bowser. Appreciate it. Hope you're doing well as well. I'm from South Shore, Long Island, Massapequa. Jimmy B says, what is the advantage of being unemployed? Probably none. Razzle Dazzle 786 says, hello, Tom. I hope all is well. Thank you, Razzle Dazzle. Hope you're having a good one. as we are taking a walk back uptown. Great views tonight, a little bit cold. Jason Francis says, hello, Tom, good evening, good to see you. Jason, welcome. Jim Martin says, hello from Toronto, Canada. Hope everybody had a wonderful weekend. I did have a wonderful weekend. Thank you so much for asking. Bowser says, what time is it, Tom? I'm not sure. But Bowser, always good to see you. So I'm never sure of what time it is, because when I'm streaming I can't see the time on my phone and I don't own a watch. Andreas says, my two brothers live on Long Island. It's great. I like it. Amazing night. Thank you so much for being here. Much appreciated. Yeah, Long Island is good during the spring and the summer. During the winter, it's not so much fun. Meet Patel says, hey, Tom, can you go to New Jersey? Yeah, we can. We definitely can. Maybe not tonight, but maybe soon. Somewhat Knowledgeable Geeks says, property taxes on the island, they're insane, especially in Nassau County. The homes are like $600K minimum. I know, it's insane. Steve says, Tom, the 25% of cash purchases in January included people borrowing from 401K without penalty. Yeah, so Steve, you're right. I think during the, Steve, what was it? During the COVID-19 pandemic, obviously in 2020, people were allowed to borrow from their 401K with no penalty, which I would never advise anyway. I mean, your 401K is for your retirement. Your 401K is not for buying a house. Abdullah is here. Good to see you. This is great shot. Welcome, Abdullah. Always good to see you, Abdullah. And we have British Gray, the one and only from Tampa, Florida. Hope you're well, British Gray. Steph says, Tom, a good watch is a good investment. You know, a lot of my friends have been saying that, but I don't know. I'm just not a big watch guy. My thing is, like, if I wear a watch, I'm probably going to lose it. That's my biggest fear. Imagine if I buy, like, an expensive watch, and then I'm like, man, I lost it. That's definitely not a good look. I have to be a little bit more responsible first, I think. Daryl says, Tom, John Gotti is from Long Island. Yeah, he's actually from my neighborhood, actually. Jimmy Anderson says, great seeing you live. Great seeing you, too. Jimmy Anderson is here. The one and only Beer and Bets podcast. Honest is happy Sunday, Tom. Got my taxes done today. Hey, very cool. Awesome. Yeah, Roy S. is the last time Tom has to wear a watch. He was asked to come to a wedding party, which is actually coming up in this, what's it called? It's actually coming up in the summer. I've never been to a wedding before, so very excited. I never really understood the amount of effort and work it takes to put on a wedding. Will come here on this tiny island to compete. So if you walk down the street, you're probably going to meet extremely educated, extremely smart, talented individuals, and those are the type of people I want to be around. Also, we have people from all over the world, right? So I think, especially, let's say if you're not from New York, you're from a very small town, you know, somewhere in middle America, you come to New York, you're probably going to get more cultured and understand how other people from different customs and cultures operate. And I think that's a healthy thing for society in general. bit of wander is is like wedding equals terrible idea. Yeah, Bowser says, dude, if I were in New York City, I would eat food first and then walk around. I agree. WW is here. Good to see you. Says, I plan on marriage. Good to see you, WW. Hey, DA says, hi, Tom. Good evening. Can I ask a family question? Sure. Bowser in video game. Good to see you. John says, looks like London fog. So I think this is one of my favorite shots here, if you guys can see. Hey, Al Baker says, crude oil, $99.14. Yeah, you know, the 50-day moving average on crude, you know, I like to look at ticker symbol CL, which is the crude oil futures. if you throw a 50-day moving average on there, it's right there, right around $100. But I thought this fact was interesting. 135 is the number of terawatt hours of energy consumed by the global Bitcoin industry. That is more than the entire country of Norway that consumes about 124 terawatt hours. So Bitcoin is bigger than Norway. Kind of interesting, kind of strange to even wrap my head around that, but it's true. And I believe the last time we checked futures was about 30 minutes ago. So the S&P 500 E-mini futures were down fractionally. Really all the major indices are down across the board, with the Dow Jones Industrial Average down and the NASDAQ 100 all down across the board. Tom M., good to see you. Tom says, New York, too liberal, period, same as Philly, Chicago. Yeah, I mean, definitely is liberal, but I don't really try to think about politics too much. But you're right. Hey, WW, or a bit of wander, good to see you. James says a lot of New York City is quite conservative, but they're drowned out by the liberals. Cynthia Beale says, Tom, Godzilla can walk out of the harbor. You would focus on the topic. That is true. That is true, Cynthia. Hey, Eric, 1212 says, but Bitcoin doesn't use that much energy because it's need. It does only because there is limited quantity of BTC available by cycle and difficulty gets increased. Good to see you, Eric, 1212. So, Eric, we will be streaming live. We have a press pass at the 2022 Bitcoin conference in Miami, where we will be live streaming the keynote speech of Michael Saylor and many others. So stay tuned for that on April 6th through April 9th. We will be there. Hey, Bit of Wander says, friends, got to go. I'll see you later, Tom. Thank you, Bit of Wander, for tuning in tonight. Thank you for joining. Much appreciated. And please have a good start to your week and a good start to your Q2. So now we are walking up Broadway, West 27th Street, where we will hit into Koreatown. But tonight I want to try to walk all the way up to where we were last night, Billionaires Row, 57th Street. We'll see how long that takes us. We probably will be there in about 30 minutes. Looks like all the flower pots are here. Hey, Nicholas Island boys, Tommy, I'll be in New York around May for my company's All Hands. I'm excited to eat some prime restaurant food. Hey, awesome, man. Well, I'm happy for you. Please enjoy it. Please enjoy it. Eric1212 says, Bitcoin should follow Ethereum and get a proof of stake or better. I disagree with that, but I respect the opinion. I disagree with that, but I do respect your opinion. Al Baker, his population of Norway is 5 million people. That's like the population of Dade and Broward County in southern Florida. You're right. Anna says, you're never out of breath with all that walking. Not really. Very seldom do we get out of breath. Very, very seldom. Let's see where we at here. So everybody, on Monday, the Census Bureau will report on the new factory orders for February. Consensus estimate is that new orders for manufactured durable and non-durable goods will increase 0.5% month over month to a seasonally adjusted $548 billion. In January, factory orders increased 1.4%. New orders for durable goods jumped an additional 1.6% to $278 billion. And non-durable goods gained 1.2% to $267 billion. In addition, tomorrow, Broadcom will host its annual shareholder meeting. So we'll actually cover that because Broadcom is a big, important company in terms of semiconductor production. And as we know, we are in a major crisis, not only in the United States, but globally. Yes, a semiconductor shortage globally. Now, there was some interesting piece of news out of some of the major car manufacturers, one of which being Toyota, second of which being GM or General Motors. They missed the mark on car sales or on auto sales. But does anybody know the reason why they missed the mark on auto sales? Does anybody know? It wasn't because of lack of demand. It's because of the semiconductor shortage. They physically could not put cars into production because they were short on specific parts and the necessary chipsets needed to make those parts. So even though Toyota and GM missed the mark on the numbers for car sales or for auto sales, there's no cars to sell. The demand is there. There's just no cars to sell. Very interesting, and I think that, I think it was the right call for the Biden administration to say, hey, this is a national emergency and a threat to the country to have so much of the semiconductor production overseas. Now, when I think about semiconductor production or fabs or chip fabs, I think of states like Arizona and the like. But also, there was about a $20 billion investment into Ohio. I believe it was Intel is going to invest about $20 billion to build a new chip fab in Ohio. WW says, Tom, supply chains were designed to be efficient, but not very robust. It's a national issue for us to have more trustworthy supply chains. I agree. I agree with you 100%, WW. Hey, Cynthia Beal says, I love the white building. Good to see you. Hey, Tom M says, Tom, GM quality is terrible. Evolve says, is there a chip shortage right now? Yes. There is a chip shortage right now. Pineapple Water says, Professor Tom, next time you ask the class the question, you must give us time to answer it. I apologize. I definitely will do that. But Pineapple Water, good to see you. Lena Sandoval is here. Morris says, hello from São Paulo, Brazil. Good to see you. So let's try to cross the street. We got these two big buses here. So we'll have to make a maneuver around them. Gumby, good to see you. Hope you're well. Chris Beeman, the one and only from Arizona. Hey, Bernard Freeman, thank you for joining tonight. Appreciate it. So similar to what we're seeing in the car market, right, for vehicles, I think we're starting to see very, very similar action in the housing market. So even though home sales were down month over month, I think a great deal of that was due to a lack of supply, right? We're seeing people very reluctant to list their homes on the market because, with prices so elevated, let's say if I had the ability to sell my house for a $250,000 profit, what's the issue there, right? So let's say I sell the house. The problem is I still need a place to live. And that means I have to go right back out into the marketplace that's so competitive and try to either, number one, buy another property, or number two, compete with people that are bidding up the prices of rent. So I think people are probably just sort of hunkering down until things calm down a little bit. But I'd love to know your thoughts. John, I did not hear the news about California. Please enlighten us. Hey, Mark Tyler says, hi, Tom. How are you? Anybody see my comments? Yeah, I could see your comments. What's going on, Mark? Good to see you. Hey, the one and only Cosmo Scary. What's up, Cosmo? Hope you had a good one. Yeah, Wendy's is for the first time ever. I think some cars are selling over MSRP. You're right. That they are, which is really crazy. But, I think some of that stuff is starting to settle down a little bit. One of the industries I watch very closely is the used car market. And I mean, some of the used cars, especially at a lot of these auto auctions, are going for a ridiculous amount of money. But I think a lot of that will slow with time. Hey, Joe Bell says, hey, Tom, shout out to you and shout out to the audience tonight. Hey, thank you so much for joining. Thank you for watching. Raul is here, says, hello from Colombia. Love Colombia. Good to see you, Raul. Cosmo Scary says, Tom, how is Atomic Habits treating you? Very good book, Cosmo. I definitely would recommend it. Really, really good book. So here's another view of the Empire State Building. Hey, Eric1212 says, good news to note, graphics cards stating to get in stock at stores. Hope chips will be more available now for car builders as graphics cards industry is no more in shortage of chips. Good to see you, Eric1212. That is good news. Evolve says, Tom, you're awesome, great channel. Hey, thank you. Much appreciated. James says, we're getting all the tourist views tonight. We are, that indeed. Honest as clear skies. Hey, Mark Tyler says, hey, Tom, just wanted to say I got a lot of offers on my house at the Jersey Shore. So it's a good time to sell. I think I'll move to Florida to get away from the cold winter weather. Well, Mark, congratulations on that. Hopefully a lot of those offers were over asking, if you could disclose. Mark Tyler says, Tom, what are your thoughts on Delray Beach, Boynton Beach as areas to buy in Florida? So in full transparency, I'm not too familiar with those two locations. Right? I'm not too familiar with those two locations. But what I would ask you is, what are you looking to get out of this purchase? Are you looking to just buy a single family home where you live in it yourself? Or are you trying to buy cash flowing real estate where it's either a multifamily property, a duplex, or a triplex? And if that's the case, deals are very, very few and far between right now. But if you can find a property that'll cash flow, I would say pull the trigger on the deal. Assuming the property is not in a flood zone, assuming the property is in good shape. Hey S, good to see you. Jamie Price says, were you able to pick up those financial books you wanted from the store? I wasn't, unfortunately. So the thing that sucks is I lost my debit card because I never use cash. I never carry cash. So I'll have to get that tomorrow. Robert says, how did you find your property, Tom? One of my really, really good friends is a very notable real estate agent down in Southern Florida. And I actually got it before it was even on the market. Hey, Tom M is here, says, we need a change fast. It ain't working. Everything is going down to the drain, says Tom M. Marcelo says, when does the City Hall intend to release the use of scaffolding in New York City? Always a bad picture. Yeah, so the scaffolding has been a problem in New York. But here's the reason why, and I think I've explained it a couple times, but I'll explain it again. Oftentimes the building code department or the Department of Buildings or something like that, I really forget what they're called, but they'll issue a summons or something like that, really because the facade of the building. So I'll give you an example. So let's say a building like this. They may say, hey, a couple of the stones or a couple of the bricks on the building are loose and it could cause a hazard to the people down below. So they have two options. Number one, they could pay, probably hundreds of thousands of dollars to restore the whole thing, or they could just slap scaffolding up there and then it delays the process of them having to fix it and pay the fines. So that is something that is in the works. I'm not sure if it'll ever get rectified, but sometimes this scaffolding can sit up for years, 1, 2, 3 years before the sort of landlord actually even bothers to repair the building, unfortunately. So now everybody, we are walking in Koreatown, which is one of my favorite spots. But right here is the H Mart, which is one of my favorite grocery stores here in the city. It is an Asian grocery store. Fantastic food here. Melee says, Tom, why don't you carry cash? I'm really only a digital type person. So if I can't pay with Apple Pay or something like that, I probably won't even have the means to buy it, honestly. I just don't like cash. I think cash is dirty. I think it's inefficient. And I think as we, move down the line here, a couple more years, 5-10 years, I think in 50 years we're going to look back and we're going to think, wow, I cannot believe that we actually used to carry around pieces of paper and coins in our pocket. I really think that. I really think in 10, 20 years, it'll be jaw-dropping. Our kids will be asking us, I cannot believe you actually walked around and did commerce in physical pieces of paper. It's just insane. Hey, Mark Tyler says, Tom, my sister wants to buy in a 55-plus community. Yeah, some of those 55-plus communities are very good and very safe as well. Loop God TV. This is not really because strip clubs will always be around. Interesting. NE says, Tom, do you agree with Warren Buffett's statement that almost all investors should just invest 90% of the S&P 500? Yes, I do. I do agree with that. S says, couldn't agree more on the cash statement. Zibatata says, in 50 years, why will not believe we were so stupid to give up cash due to absolute tyrannical government power? Interesting thought. Well, I think fiat currency is more absolute tyrannical government power, right? I think ever since we went off the gold standard, that is when the creation of the two-tier society started. So this food gallery here, Food Gallery 32, is one of my favorite places to eat in Koreatown. There's many, many different shops, restaurants in here. Pelican Chicken is on the second floor, which is very good. Lady O says, windy evening tonight, Tom. Good to see you, Lady O. Welcome. Lady O is our good moderator from New Jersey. So good to see you, Lady O. Hey, Ibrahim Azam is joining us in the chat. Good to see you, Ibrahim, from California. Always a pleasure to see you, my friend. Hope you enjoyed the weekend thus far. Hey, Wayne Samuel. Good to see you, Wayne. WW says, by the way, Tom, don't you carry around... WW says, by the way, Tom, why don't you carry around with a credit card rather than debit? Debit is more risk, in my opinion. I don't carry any. I only use my cell phone to pay for things. Literally the only thing I have on me is my phone. That's it. For payment. If you look at China, South Korea, very seldom do they use cash. Everything is electronic payments. Space Zombie is like, wow, was that a rat that ran by? Probably. There's so many rats here. But check this out. This is one of my favorite views of the Empire State Building. Hey, Eric says, as far as I hate cash, refusing cash would get my commerce bankrupt. Around 1/4 of my sales are still made in cash. Yeah, I'm not saying just totally refuse to use cash, but for me personally, I don't want to have to lug around dollar bills and change and fumble around with it. Just for me, it's personally a lot easier. But yeah, that's a good point, Eric, actually. So Eric, what business are you in? What line of business are you in? If you don't mind us asking. You don't have to answer that. Wendy says, there is a horrible mass shooting in Sacramento. Jeez. Kitchen Lab says, good evening, Tom, and happy Sunday. Good to see you, Kitchen Lab. Melee says, Tom, have you ever thought if the cyber hack the banking system and wipe out your bank account to zero, that is a bad idea? Yeah, that would not be good. Cynthia Beal says, you also have credit cards. Everything is on my phone via Apple Pay. Bowser says, Tom, if you and I were in New York City, we could do a live stream together. Yeah, that would be possible. Absolutely. Zabatata says, Tom, so are you telling us that you don't grease some palms? Some palms are definitely getting greased. Anna says, it's good to keep some cash in case of an emergency. That is true. Nicholas Prasad says, pleasant night, Tom. Good to see you, Nicholas Prasad. I'm just kidding about the greased palms, by the way. I know some people like to take that so literal. Hey, Fabricio says, it's just me or streaming is too bright. I think that may be on your end. I don't know. If you adjust your brightness, perhaps? Let me see if I can do anything on my side. Let's see. Maybe try adjusting your brightness. I don't think there's anything I can do on my side. Wow, Eric1212 says it's a butchery with some grocery stuff, cheese, pastry, bread. Wow, Eric, are you local? Maybe we'll take a visit. Feel free to drop your website in the link or anything or in the chat. Otto says, Tom, what happens if your battery runs out? How will you pay? So I always carry a phone charger on me. And I just charge the phone and go about my business. I mean, for me, it's just the way I like to operate. I like to be very, very asset light when I'm walking around. I just don't like to have a lot of change and junk. Mark Saint says, haha, Tom, as always, I enjoy your three obsessions: the Empire State Building, Teslas, and Koreatown restaurants. Mark, you're so right. So speaking of one of my favorite Koreatown restaurants, we're actually about to pass one right now. So if anybody comes to New York, this is my favorite restaurant in all of Koreatown. It's called Take 31. It's phenomenal. You have to, it's a little bit pricey, to be just totally honest. But I think once in a while, if you go here once or twice a year, it's not going to hurt. Very good food. Very unique food, by the way. Yeah, so I think you're right. Your phone your phone as money requires internet access. Cash does not. So it actually doesn't require internet access. You could still use Apple Pay even if you don't have LTE or anything on your phone. But I see your point. I see everybody's point. So this is Take 31. But every single new change, it's sort of like how I like explaining it to my customers, right? My customers, let's say if I'm doing a big implementation of like a big enterprise software and my customer has 1,000 employees and I'm going up against a competitor, and my competitors usually all the time they'll say, hey, the implementation is going to go so flawlessly, there's going to be no problems, there's going to be no hiccups, there's going to be no issues at all. To which case my customer tells me that and I'm like, when we do this implementation, I can guarantee you there's going to be hiccups, there's going to be problems, and your employees, about 20% of those employees are going to kick, scream, fight, complain because people don't like change. And that's the reality. And as a salesperson, my job is to be open and honest and upfront and tell you that. I've been doing this 8 years. I've been in enterprise sales for 8 years. I have never had an implementation where every single person at your company or at my customer's company says, oh, this is great, this is fantastic. You're going to have about 20% of the people kick and scream because humans don't like change, right? So it's the same thing with going to a cashless society. You're going to have about 20% of the people kick and scream, say, oh, the government's going to track us. What if your phone dies? It's inefficient. But it's going to happen, right? And so I think the people who resist the change tend to get left behind. And the people who are more adaptable tend to really excel and overcome. And there's an interesting interview with David Letterman and Bill Gates right when email was just coming out. And the internet was just coming out. And the whole time during the interview, David Letterman was roasting Bill Gates about how stupid the internet is. He's like, oh, I heard you could listen to a baseball game on the internet. He's like, you ever heard of radio? And then the audience laughs. And then, he was making a big joke of Bill Gates. But fast forward 20 years, everything is on the internet. Everybody has email. And everybody watches the majority of their content on a streaming service. So if anybody wants to pull that interview up, I think it's a good learning opportunity, because even though I know David Letterman's job is to be a comedian and make jokes, but you could tell he was really reaming into Bill Gates during that interview and saying, oh, this is all going to be BS. Also, another thing, does anybody remember when the first iPhone came out? When the first iPhone came out, Matt Lauer, and I can't stand that guy for other reasons, but Matt Lauer and all the gang there, he was like, this is so ridiculous. This is so stupid. Why would anybody need an iPhone when I have a BlackBerry? Blackberries are the best things ever. And that interview will live on the internet forever. And it's always the people who don't really understand technology who are always behind the curve. So David Letterman's of the world and the Matt Lauers of the world. Does anybody remember those two interviews? Those are fantastic, fantastic interviews. Yeah, Lady O says people mocked the horseless carriage automobile. Now we rely on it. That's true. That's another good point. Eric's, you're in Quebec. Love Canada. I hope to get back to Canada now that this COVID stuff is dying down. I really want to make a trip to Canada a lot. Hey, Nicole B. Winning, good to see you. Bowser says, Tom, can people smoke? Yes, people can smoke. Oliver Rogers says, saw the interview with Gates and Letterman. Yeah, what'd you think about that interview? Mark Tyler says, and Tom, what do you do when your cell phone goes down and you're dying of thirst and you want to buy a soda and you need cash? Yeah, so I think a lot of those problems were maybe applicable, let's say, in the 30s, like if I'm in a desert. But I live in one of the most prosperous cities on the planet. If my phone dies, I think I'm going to be able to survive here. I mean, there's over hundreds of thousands of homeless people just in New York City. They survive without a phone and everything. So I think I could wait, 15 minutes for the phone to charge. But I do see your point. I do see your point. Yeah, Ollie Rogers is also like when CNBC roasted Kathy Wood for buying so much Tesla stock. So, you know what? That's a really, really good point. But I think the best CNBC interview of all time was on Mad Money. And Kramer specifically saying, oh, Elon Musk, Tesla's going to go to zero. It's a horrible company. On the day of the IPO, he was like, short Tesla, I would never touch this thing with a 10-foot pole. And look where Tesla is today. Because in Kramer's sort of Mad Money tirade, he was like, the oil companies are never going to let EVs take over. And traditional car companies are never going to let EVs take over. But now you see GM, you see Toyota. These companies and Ford, they're all behind the curve. They're just trying to catch up to the EV standard that Tesla set. And history always happens like that. It's very weird. So now we are right here on 5th Avenue. Peter Webley says cashless equals government and big tech control your life. Perhaps. Melee says you can't trust Kramer sometimes. NOV says hello everybody, good to see you, NOV. Perry Willick says hello Tom, good to see you. S says wait until people find out that we never needed cash to begin with. Anna says do you walk through Toronto? I wonder what Toronto vibes are like. Stardust is here, good to see you. Brad's Brain says I cannot believe it, but my parents still get Netflix DVD in the mail. It still exists. No way, are you serious? Is that really a thing? Now that's awesome. Hey, Mr. Fine Arts is ready for the week, gents. Let's get it. Good to see you. Yeah, I think the official start of Q2, so hopefully everybody had the time to relax and recharge as we just start on Q2 here. Hey, Miss Brown Eyes, thank you so much for the $4 donation. Very much appreciated. Thank you for being here. You're always way too kind, Miss Brown Eyes. So everybody, on Tuesday, the Reserve Bank of Australia will announce its monetary policy decision. The central bank is expected to keep its cash target rate unchanged at 0.1%, the same level it has been since November 2022. So it seems like we are going to continue on this trend of central banks, not only in the United States, such as the Federal Reserve, but around the world. We're going to continue on this easy money policy of artificially low interest rates and asset purchases. But Fed Chairman Jerome Powell did say at the May 3rd, or the May 2nd to May 3rd meeting, the FOMC meeting, he will be detailing and outlining clear steps in relation to unwinding their nearly $9 trillion balance sheet. So we'll see. We'll see if that actually materializes. I really have a hard time believing that the Federal Reserve is going to be able to create a soft landing, so to speak, and actually unwind their balance sheet, let alone stop purchasing assets outright altogether. I think that the balance sheet is going to continue to expand as time goes on. But we could check the Federal Reserve's balance sheet in real time. And obviously the majority of that balance sheet is made up of mortgage-backed securities and U.S. Treasuries. Oh, check out these flowers here. Hey, Robert is here. Says Robert says, Tom, where does the Federal Reserve get all the money to buy those assets? They just print it digitally out of thin air. It's all fagaz. Man, it is getting so cold out here. Hey, D says, love the flowers. Still waiting for the daffodils to bloom. Brad's Brain says, Tom, what was the name of the book? Crypto you spoke of the day or so ago. I'm going to get it on Audible. So that is called The Bitcoin Standard. So that is a book I would highly, highly recommend. And the reason why I would recommend The Bitcoin Standard for anybody to read is because the first half of the book is really not about Bitcoin at all. It's a complete history lesson about fiat currencies since the beginning of time, and outlines the rise and fall of fiat currencies time and time again So I think if you really want to learn history of fiat currencies, why they're so terrible, why they rob purchasing power from the middle class, I think it's a really good book. Very, very good book to read. Hey, Joe C. says 25 degrees in New York City. Good to see you, Joe C. Honest is beautiful skyscrapers. Patricia Ivory says, I love watching you every night. Keep up the good work, Tom. Thank you, Patricia. Hope you are enjoying. MF Craig says, what is China's social credit system? Would it work in the U.S.? Says Milt Craig in Fort Wayne. So I don't think we'll ever get that in the United States, to be totally honest. At least I hope not. I am very, very against the sort of social credit score. I think that is way too much government overreach in my view. S says there sure are a lot of blue and gold themed things around the city, including those flowers. Yeah, so I think the blue and gold is still up for Ukraine. So I'll give you guys another look at the Empire. But if you guys are enjoying the stream tonight, feel free to leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you are new. As the wind is picking up here in Manhattan. Real fun. It says cryptocurrencies is all garbage. Another way to monitor the normal citizen. Interesting take. I don't agree with your take, but I do respect it. Capital Post is here. Good to see a Capital Post. Marcelo says, wow, amazing. Good to see you, Marcelo. Pablo's joining us. Good to see you, Pablo. So now we are coming up to Herald Square, 34th Street Herald Square. We're going to see whatever's left of the Macy's flower show. You know, I may have to put down the camera for a second and get my hat out, because it is quite windy. Hey, John is here. Hey, John. Leah is here from Brazil. Good evening, Leah. I hope you are having a great weekend so far. And Tiago Pereira is here. Good to see you, Tiago. Wendy says, I thought cryptocurrencies in some cases were less traceable. Yeah, so for instance, like a Monero or something like that is a very secure, less traceable type of currency in terms of transactions. But everybody, on Thursday, so April 7th, 2022, the Federal Reserve will report on consumer credit data. Consensus estimate is for total consumer credit debt to increase to a seasonally adjusted annual rate of 2.7% to a record of $4.46 trillion. So think about that. Consumer credit data, or consumer credit debt, is expected to increase to $4.46 trillion. To me, that's just mind-boggling. And I think we've seen this because people have decided to take advantage of artificially low interest rates. And even though interest rates that are low, yes, it tends to stimulate the economy, it tends to get things moving, but it also sometimes nudges people, or the average person, to take on too much debt that they can actually afford. You know, they'll be like, rates are low, I'll take advantage of the cheap money. But more often than not, that tends to lead to not too good turnouts. So we are right outside Macy's with the flower show. Pablo is here. Good to see you, Pablo. Yeah, Steven says, Tom, it's all the houses and trucks that people bought. Hey, FredX says, love the Empire State Building, but the Chrysler Building is better. In one word, glorious. Yeah, the Chrysler Building is definitely an absolute beautiful building here in New York. I agree. Wow, but check out these trees here. Are these considered cherry blossoms? I don't think so. CP says, Tom, no technology has ever been adopted like Bitcoin ever in American history. Cars, cell phones, internet, nothing beats Bitcoin. Yeah, so the adoption rates, you're actually 100% correct. The adoption rate is actually faster than the internet in terms of Bitcoin wallets and things like that. Lady O says Dogwoods. Interesting. Thank you for that, Lady O. Much appreciated. So everybody, we will be publishing the 20th edition of the Behind the Street newsletter, which is a free financial newsletter I write for everybody in the chat once a week. So if you type !news, NEWS, in the chat, the Nightbot will drop the link for the newsletter. So if you want a more in-depth look on some of my thoughts on not only the U.S. equities markets, but emerging markets, commodities, and the like, if you type !news, NEWS, look out for that link. The Nightbot will drop it, and you can sign up for free. I think my personal use case for Bitcoin is a digitalized store of value. And so with me, I know there's a lot of people out there, but in terms of myself, like sometimes you'll have people out there that try to convince other people to say, Bitcoin is the end all be all. You got to get into it. You got to buy it. Me, not to sound sort of like stuck up or anything, I really couldn't care less if people buy it or not. What I do is I just try to make the best informed investing decision for me. And I've concluded that it's appropriate for me personally to make it a part of my portfolio, all while understanding the risks of the investment. And if people think it's a scam, that's fine. I don't care. And I think that's good because, a lot of the times people can force people into things that they don't understand. And I would never advocate to invest in something you don't understand. So if you do your research on Bitcoin and you think it's a scam, you think it's a fraud, and you think that you just want to continue to invest in stocks and leave Bitcoin out of it, then I would do that. And I actually think that would be the appropriate choice. Hey, Junior says, I live in Sacramento. Love that. All right, guys, we will head further uptown. Hey, Marcelo, good to see you. Says, your newsletter are fantastic, but a few things about gold prices. Is it a good investment? So I don't own any gold, but if we do break to new all-time highs in gold, I think I will be buying some physical gold. Well, not physical. I'd probably just buy GLD if we break to new all-time record highs. But I can't advise on if it's a good investment or not, as I am not a financial advisor. But I think for me personally, if we do break new all-time highs in gold, that means the price is emerging out of a near 12-year base. And I would get long on that. Real Funds is, who said we have to add QR codes, payment apps, or digital IDs to our personal phones? Whether Bitcoin is a scam or not is irrelevant. We are basically saying blockchain is what we want. This is Real Fun. Interesting thought. Interesting thought. S is Dan Pena. Thinks Bitcoin is awful. What are your thoughts on that? Yeah, like I said, for me, I don't care what other people think of it or not. What matters is what I think of the investment, right? If it's my money, it doesn't matter what Dan Pena thinks of it. It doesn't matter what Barack Obama thinks of it. It doesn't matter what Donald Trump thinks of it. It matters what I think of it. And I think if more people sort of thought about building an investment thesis based upon what they think as opposed to what others think, I think you would probably generate a little bit more alpha in your portfolio. And that's not to say don't listen to other people's perspectives. But if you've gone out to the marketplace and collected as much data as possible on that specific investment, and then you could formalize a rational thesis to say, yes, I should get exposure to it, no, I shouldn't get exposure to it, then I think you can make the appropriate decision to move forward. But in my view, and in terms of my personal risk parameters or risk profile for investing, I've concluded that I want to get long Bitcoin and Ethereum. That's my personal conclusion. Now, it doesn't mean that conclusion is necessarily the correct conclusion. I could be 100% wrong, and both Bitcoin and Ethereum could go to zero. But that's my personal choice, and I have to be responsible for that and understand those risk parameters. Hey, Timelapse is here. Good to see you, Timelapse. Welcome. Says, I personally added a good amount of gold and silver last year. Didn't expect to make a lot of money from it. It's really an insurance policy on what could happen. I think that's a good idea. You're 100% right. So you said you bought physical, right? So how do you store that, if you don't mind me asking? Because I think I said it before, but I did start to accumulate a little bit of physical silver, and I'm not too sure of where I should store that. So if you could give me any advice on that, I'd appreciate it. Hey, Andreas A says, hi, can you please say hi to my kids, Camilo and Felipe? Welcome, Camilo and Felipe. Hope you're having a great weekend. And thank you for watching as well. Time lapse is just physical. Home, hide it somewhere. Yeah, so I was thinking about a safety deposit box. But then again, I lived through Hurricane Sandy. And I remember in Long Beach, at the Chase Bank, they actually had all the safety deposit boxes at Chase Bank in the streets with armed guards running like M16s because the bank was full of sand and all flooded, and they had to rip the safety deposit boxes out of the bank, and everybody was collecting their personal items on the streets. It was very dystopian, like in nature, and I don't know if I want to put my stuff in safety deposit boxes after seeing that. Hey, Michelle McGraw, good to see you. Says, hey Tom, hope you had a good weekend. Good to see you, Michelle McGraw. Yeah, Cynthia Beals like tear up the floor and put it in the floor. Yeah, or maybe just put a fireproof safe in your own house, I guess. Yeah, Honest says, could you buy a vault? I probably could. I don't know, I gotta figure it out. Space Zombie says, Tom, get a home safe. You can get a small one and hide it in the wall or something like that. That's true. I was thinking about getting a safe anyway and actually welding it into the floor. Because I live on a concrete slab. So I could probably actually bolt it and drill it into the slab. I'll think about it. Hey, Junior says, I keep half of my gold and silver and crypto cold storage in a heavy gun-proof safe, or in a heavy gun safe. High fire rating as well. Yeah, so I also have a little bit in cold storage. So I have what's called a paper wallet. CP says, hey Tom, have you heard about Crypto Island? I'm a little wary of all about it. I have not heard of it. Is that the bow-tied bull? Is that the bow-tied bull thing that's going on? The avatar on Twitter? Eric1212 says, if it's a condo, be aware that the slab isn't a common property. Yeah, so it's my own property, but that is a good point. It's a very good point. So everybody, now we are looking at the one and only One Vanderbilt building. Hey, Derek is here, says, hey Tom, how you doing? You should show yourself more often. We want to see a face with the voice. Derek, thank you for watching. Much appreciated. And I will take that into consideration. We will be showing our face more often. I will, promise. Stefanos says, have you ever considered art or wine speculation? You know what? I actually have. Probably art speculation more than wine speculation because I don't drink alcohol, but I think maybe as I get older, and I think I may want to collect wine just to put it in like a nice wine cellar or something like that, but I think I'd probably start with art. I would probably start with art. So that's actually a great question. So anybody in the chat, is anybody in the chat an art collector? Anybody in the chat? And if so, any advice on how to get started in collecting art? Sabrina Fair, good to see you, Sabrina. Always good to see you. Hey, Jose has just started drawing. Good to see you. Yeah, I guess that's right. You don't drink the wine, you're investing in it. That's true. Hey, Miguel Gonzalez. Good to see you, my friend. So here we are at Bryant Park, everybody. It is unfortunately closed for the night, but you could see the Steven Schwartzman building from here. Beautiful here at Bryant Park. Hey, Elliot Wave Review says, greetings, Tom. Why have you decided not to drink alcohol? Is it for religious reasons? It's not for religious reasons. I'm getting so cold I can't pronounce words tonight. I just don't really have a bother for it. I'm not saying it's bad. I really don't care if anybody drinks or not. But for me personally, I just don't really mind it. Hey, Marcelo's art collection is a good investment for the long period. People prefer money in the pocket now, says Marcelo. Eddie Spaghetti says, hey, how cold is it at the moment? I think it's probably about 35 degrees. But check out these flowers tonight, guys. Beautiful flowers here at Bryant Park. If you're enjoying the stream, feel free to hit the like button, subscribe if you are new. And just a quick review. So corporate profits, right? When we're talking about investing in the S&P 500 or something like that, there's a direct correlation between the growth in corporate profits or the growth in earnings and the share price appreciation. So 35% U.S. corporate profits grew in 2021. So 2021 corporate profits grew 35%. That is the highest growth since 1950. And, you know, we've talked about this before and the reason why we talked about it before is usually in times of extreme high inflation. So usually during times when inflation is extremely, extremely high, corporations will have the very rare moment to actually raise prices, but what they'll do is they'll actually build in a little bit of a buffer. So let's say if raw materials go up about, let's say 20%. So the prices of raw materials are going up 20%. The companies with very, very strong brands will be able to pass those prices on to consumers, right? So let's say if, you know, your Starbucks coffee and the price of the coffee beans go up 5%, right? Just as an example. Starbucks is going to be more apt or able to increase the price of their coffee as opposed to the local coffee shop on the street, because Starbucks is a big name brand, right? People will probably still go to Starbucks even if they're going to pay 30% more for their coffee, etc., etc., etc. So usually in times of inflation, a year or two after the inflation starts, corporate profits actually tend to balloon and skyrocket. And that's exactly what we're seeing here. And that is reflecting in the price of the S&P 500. Now we are passing the Salesforce Tower, ticker symbol CRM, Mark Benioff's company. Yeah, so Mike C. Mike, you're 100% right. I think Mike C has the comment of the night so far. Mike C says, not to mention the inflation of keeping the price the same, but reducing the quantity you get. So that's what you call shrinkflation, and you're 100% right, Mike. So there was actually a big piece that came out in the Wall Street Journal that was saying companies over time, you know, you may walk into the grocery store and pick up a pack of Oreos and it may be the same price, but the companies are so sly and so slick, they'll actually reduce the overall amount of product that they give you, thus increasing the overall price. So you're 100% right on that. But now we are standing directly under the Bank of America Tower, and we have a beautiful view of the Empire State Building. Hey, Lewis is here. Welcome, Lewis. Capital Post is here. Anna, good to see you. Hey, XRP is here. Good to see you, XRP. Al Berg says, Tom, the Bank of America building is to the right. You are correct, my friend. So Bank of America Tower is one of my favorite buildings in New York City. Hey, Cynthia Beal, thank you for the time check, 10:18. But yeah, corporate profits grew 35%. That's significant. That is very, very significant. Stranger, good to see you. So now we are walking up 6th Avenue. This is Avenue of the Americas, 43rd Street. And I'll turn around and I'll give you an even better view of the Empire. Hey, Lady O says, are we headed to Moynihan Train Hall or not yet? Not yet. We will very soon. Hey, Real Fun says, I am 55 years old. Old school paper currency. Type paper receipt. When currency begins to go under your skin, then you should worry. I will be dead by that time. Thank you for the input. Appreciate that. So hopefully we will be able to get all the way up towards Billionaires Row. But check out this piano. You could actually see the inner workings of the piano. Hey, Frank is here, says, as artist and art lover, a few decades, I think eBay now is a really amazing place for collecting and finding artists online, buying from their studio. Wow, Frank. Well, Frank, if you're an artist, we would love to see some of your artwork. So feel free, please feel free to, drop a link in the chat to your work, your website. We always like checking out new things. And if you want to join the Walks on Wall Street Discord, please check out the links in the description. Join the Discord where we network about getting jobs in tech, investment banking, and so on. Doesn't have to be just tech and investment banking, many other careers. And if you want to plug whatever thing you're doing, we'd be more than happy to check it out. So Frank, being that you were an artist, I really want to get your opinion on something. So we talk about NFTs, or non-fungible tokens. Very controversial subject. I've already given my opinion on it. What do you think about NFTs in relation to artists being able to monetize their work and verify their digital artwork on the blockchain? What do you think about it? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Love to know your thoughts. Alberg says, Tom, I just started rock painting. Very cool. Annette. Oh, Anthony says, what's up, Tom? If you don't mind, what did you study in college? I studied criminal justice in college and a minor in economics. Jose Sanchez says, used to work on 45th and 6th across from the Chick-fil-A. Dude, so did I. No way. Did you work in the Marsh & McLennan building? I worked right here, second floor. That was my office. Maybe you were the guy I would wave to across the street. Hey, Kathleen is here. Says, Tom, what is your job title again? I'm really enjoying all these streams and love the informative information you share. So I am in enterprise tech sales. Enterprise tech sales. So I sell not only software but hardware into the Fortune 500 and Fortune 50. Alfred Lyle says, estate sales are a great way to pick up art. You know, Alfred, you're 100% correct. So Alfred, there's two really good bookstores here in New York City, East Village Books, and oftentimes they'll get the majority of their used books from estate sales on the Upper West Side, sometimes way up in the Bronx, wherever, Westchester, and they have some really, really rare and old finance books, which make for good arbitrage opportunities if you go in there and you sort of understand the pricing of some of those older, rare finance books. Makes for a really good arbitrage opportunity. DC says, I think it's sorry about that. Okay, thanks, man. Says, I think it's a legit way to capitalize. Also good for the individual to pay attention where they put their money. Interesting. Very interesting. Sabrina Fair, funny. Hey, Sly Fox 94 says, hey Tom, since you are in enterprise software sales, do you know anything about Palantir? I do. Ticker symbol PLTR. I think the valuation's a little bit crazy. So I'll recommend a book for you to read. It's actually a very, very good book. It's by Kathy Donnelly and Eve Bobach. And the book is called Life Cycle Trade. And oftentimes when there's a new IPO or a new initial public offering, you'll have CNBC, Bloomberg hype it up. It's the next big thing. They did it with all these enterprise software companies, Snowflake and the like. Everybody buys it and then the IPO tanks. So the data shows, out of a study of all IPOs, of all initial public offerings going back to the late 70s, 90% of all IPOs will undercut its IPO price within a year of being public. And the reason for that is because when a company goes public, so if we think about what an IPO actually is, an IPO or an initial public offering is the transition of ownership of the company from the private market, so you can think about venture capital, private equity, transferring that ownership to the public market, which would be your investment banks, your institutions, hedge funds, sovereign wealth. You get the picture. Individual shareholders like me and you. And a lot of the times when a company goes public, the major investment banks will assign an analyst to that specific company or stock. And in order for that analyst to recommend to their portfolio manager, their PM, to buy that particular stock, they want to at least see 3 to 6 earnings reports roll through on that company to see if they're meeting analyst expectations or even exceeding analyst expectations. Because a lot of the times a company will go public These investment banks will dress up the financials, they'll dump it on the public market, and then next thing you know, on every earnings report, the company is missing expectations and they're guiding lower. So if you have a company that goes public and the first two earnings reports, the company says, hey, analysts expected that we were going to earn 50 cents a share. We actually earned $1.50 a share. Analysts on Wall Street also thought we were going to make $100 million in revenue. We actually did $250 million worth of revenue. And guess what? We're doing so well, we're actually going to guide higher for next quarter and next fiscal year. That's called a beat and raise quarter. If you can observe a lot of that activity consistently for 3 to 6 earnings reports, so over a year, then that's when institutional investors start to buy the stock, right? So that's why I always like to wait at least a year before I buy any sort of IPO. I like to wait at least 1 year for that stock to be on the market. So here we are. We are Radio City Music Hall. It's actually kind of warmer up here, surprisingly. Tracy, good to see you. Time lapse. Says a lot of executives get to sell their shares after the IPO. Yeah, so after their lockup period, a lot of the times they'll dump a lot of their shares. You're correct. Hey, Eric1212 says, Walks from Wall Street Tom, I personally see NFTs more like owning a patent than really owning an art. And like all patent, it's worth nothing if you can't defend it. This is Eric. That's an interesting thought. I never thought about it like that, actually. That's actually a really interesting thought. Phil P says, reg guys can't even get in on IPOs ever. So you're talking about like pre-IPO? Like pre-IPO prices? That is true. So on a pre-IPO, you either have to be, like a PE VC guy or an accredited investor. But I'm talking about like when the stock first comes public, like you could buy it on the first day, but I would never recommend buying a stock that just hits the market. I would wait a year. Wait for a couple earnings reports to roll through and let the stock prove to the market that we are a viable business. Are you beating analyst expectations? Are you growing your EPS at 25% plus quarter over quarter? What's your return on equity? Do you have high return on equity? What is your pre-tax and after-tax margins? Are you growing and expanding your total addressable market? All of those things you need to know before just buying it, because Jim Cramer says it's great on the day of the IPO. So this is the best halal place in New York City by far. This is called Adele's Famous. It is my favorite halal place ever. If you come to New York City, you got to check this place out. Hey, Jeff277. This is Radio City Music Hall. Would be jam-packed tonight every other year, but this year the Grammys are going on right now, and normally they are at Radio City Music Hall. Hey, I didn't know that. Wow, I didn't know that. So the Grammys are tonight. Did not know that. Thank you for that. Hey, Junior is here. Welcome. Junior says pre-IPO could get in when it's a SPAC, special purpose acquisition company, but still better to wait till after the whales dump and the price consolidates. I think you're right. I would have to agree with you. Sabrina Fair says, my husband is yelling at the television. Good to see you, Sabrina Fair. Thank you for watching. Al says, any thoughts on GBTC? Yeah, so I have a couple thoughts. So GBTC is essentially, I'm not going to call it an ETF because it's not. So I would never personally, if you're looking to get exposure to Bitcoin, I would never buy GBTC. Never. Just go on Coinbase, go on Gemini, and buy and hold BTC yourself, or Bitcoin yourself. You don't need to buy GPC to do that, because it's going to cost you money. You're going to pay a management fee for them to hold your Bitcoin. So GBTC, excuse me, stands for Bitcoin Investment Trust, and it's owned and operated by Grayscale as the company. And I wouldn't do it. If you're looking to get exposure to Bitcoin, I would just buy the physical. Hold on, I'm just trying to cross the street here without getting knocked off. I would just buy BTC on Gemini or Coinbase. You don't need a custodian to hold it for you to charge you a management fee. That's my thoughts on that. Yeah, Marcelo says UBS over there. WW says, what about Coinbase? Thoughts on that? Yeah, I think in terms of the brokers, Coinbase and Gemini are the two that I would trust. So here we are at the UBS building. Our friend Marcelo. WW, good to see you. Al Berg says 30% discount. Yeah, sometimes it'll trade at a discount to net asset value. All right, so we are walking past Neuberger Berman, which is a big asset manager on Wall Street. You know, Neuberger Berman has one of my favorite lobbies of all time. Check out the lobby, just how gorgeous it is. Inside the lobby of Neuberger Berman. It's all solid marble stretching all the way down. Yeah, UBS is a fantastic place to work. This is Marcelo Gill. Marcelo's daughter, I believe, works right in this building, so fantastic. So you are right next to Mizuho, which is a Japanese investment bank. The sales and trading desk is actually on the second floor above the Ted's Steakhouse. So for those of you who don't know, after 9/11, many of the financial firms on Wall Street actually migrated uptown to Park Avenue, to Avenue of the Americas, and the like. And also, ever really since high-frequency trading came about, a lot of the financial firms diversified, went uptown. So a lot of the hedge funds, the private equity firms are all on Park Avenue and in Midtown. Some in Times Square, Morgan Stanley, Barclays in Times Square. So a lot of activity, a lot of movement after 9/11 with the investment banks moving uptown. But Deutsche Bank, which I actually used to work right next door to Deutsche Bank, is still on Wall Street to this day. Hey, Mark Tyler says, Tom, have you ever driven to Florida? So I haven't. So usually I just take the plane because it's like $65 and I really don't like driving. Hey, Marcelo Santos says, hello from Brazil. Good to see you. Mark Lee says, Tom, I collect art, saying that there are companies that you can purchase shares and that you can purchase and even put them in your IRA. Yeah, you're right. That's awesome. Sly Fox 94 says, Deutsche Bank underperforms their American company or competitors all the time. That is true. Deutsche Bank also has the most toxic derivative exposure, which we'll actually probably have a dedicated stream to that, talking about the derivative exposure. Jeff W277 says, I'm starting a project with Charles Schwab in 2 weeks, but I'm not a financial person, I'm a software developer. Well, that's probably the best place to be, working in tech. So speaking of Charles Schwab, here we have it right here. This is the Charles Schwab building in New York City. You know, and if you want to work on Wall Street, to your point, if you have CS skills, or computer science skills, software engineering skills, even physics skills, you're probably going to be the first person to get the job, especially if you're working at a quantitative trading firm like 2 Sigma, Citadel, Jump Trading, or things like that. They actually look to hire ex-Google employees, ex-Facebook employees, because a lot of the highest performing or top performing hedge funds on Wall Street, you could think about a D.E. Shaw, which used to be in my old building. All of them run very, very complex algorithms to trade the financial markets. And in order to make these algorithms, you need to have extensive physics and computer science backgrounds. Hey D, good to see you. El Terrificos is watching from Toronto again. Love Toronto. Thank you for watching. Much appreciated. Hey, John says, found margin of safety on Amazon, $3,000 for the soft cover. Yeah, so Johnny Johnson, I actually managed to find a free PDF of margin of safety that I actually gave to everybody for free. So if you click the link in the description, join our Discord, and if you scroll over to the Markets Talk server, I included a free copy of Margin of Safety for free for everybody to enjoy. Now, Margin of Safety is really noted as one of the best investment books of all time, and the author is Seth Klarman. So Seth Klarman's Margin of Safety. Walks on Wall Street says, how about pure math? Yeah, pure math skills are very good. So check out the Steinway building here. So this is one of the many buildings on Billionaires Row. And this is the Warwick Hotel. NA says, math is reality. Indeed it is. Joe, South Shore, Long Island. So this is the entrance to the Warwick Hotel. Hey Lady O, thank you for joining tonight. Much appreciated. So this is 53 West 53, which is one of the newest additions to Billionaires Row. And I believe it is also called the MoMA building. So the Metropolitan Museum of Art is also in the building. So the entrance is right here, but it is quite a tall tower. But this is the main flagship Hilton Hotel right across the street here. Hey, Ren 1018 says, Tom, gotta watch the replay. I joined late. Thank you for joining Ren 1018. So we were just doing a basic markets, a look ahead. We're getting a lot of economic news coming out this upcoming week. But I think the number one thing we need to watch, beautiful dog right here. I think the number one thing we need to watch this week is crude oil, because 2 weeks ago we hit a high in crude, about $130. Now it has since retraced all the way back to its 50-day moving average, right around $100. I think if we crack that 50-day moving average on high volume, this energy trade could be done. Could be done. And I think that means a rotation out of the financials, out of the XLE, the XLF, and perhaps right back into enterprise software names. So we're going to watch it. It's not guaranteed, but we are going to watch it. So this is the very front of MoMA, so the Museum of Modern Art. I really want to go to MoMA. Maybe I will go to MoMA before I head back to Miami. So now we are headed towards 5th Avenue. Hey, Marcelo Gills, Tom, your lives are very nice, like a classroom. Different of others. For sure, you understand about investments. Have a good night and God bless you. Thank you so much for joining. And thank you for enjoying these sights and sounds in New York City. Hey, Gregory Kelly, this is Rockefeller Center to your left. So, I'm not too sure about this restaurant, but it always looks extremely, extremely upscale. Has anybody ever been here? Maybe any native New Yorker in the chat, or if anybody who's visited here. How do you pronounce it? Il Gattropardo. I'm not sure, but it looks absolutely beautiful in here. Has anybody ever been here? Mike C says, I've learned so much about investing from Tom. Thank you so much. I'm glad you guys are enjoying it. Oh, also, everybody, we did just surpass 14,000 subscribers to the channel. So I just wanted to say thank you. I really do appreciate it. Doing these live streams is a blast. And I think it's an honor to be able to get to speak with all of you. I learn a lot from each and every viewer. So thank you, everybody, for being here. Really appreciate it. Andy J, $65 to fly to Miami from New York City. You got to be kidding me. Yeah, sometimes it's actually a little bit lower. Sometimes the prices can be like 50 or 40 bucks. So check out the menu. What do you guys think? Let me know if you can see the menu here. Because I always see a lot of people in really, really nice clothes eating here. Huh. Yeah, I've never been here. Somebody says, Tom, isn't that a club? I'm actually not sure. Yeah, Cosmo says, I'll stick to Becco. Cosmo, I think this place is expensive, but I don't really know anything about it. But every time I walk through here, it always looks really, really nice. Hey, Abdullah says, looks good. Jeff277 says, Andy J, I'm sure that flight is Spirit Airlines, which rips you off with the baggage. No, I always fly American or Delta. So you'd be surprised if you go to kayak.com and you purchase your tickets through Kayak. I always fly about American or Delta. And very seldom do I pay over $80, to be totally honest with you. I think my past couple flights have been right around that $55 range. But I wanted to briefly show everybody this. This is 5th Avenue. Look at how absolutely gorgeous it looks inside this club here. And look at the ceiling. Look at how detailed the architecture is on the ceiling. Unreal here. If you guys like the architecture on this ceiling here, leave a like on the video. Really nice here. I think this is called the University Club, but I will double check for you, but check it out. I could sit in these chairs all day, read the newspaper, read a good book, and feel very good about life. But unfortunately, we're not in the club, but it's all right. No big deal, guys. We'll survive. So maybe if you want to Google it, maybe there's more information on it on Google. But this is the University Club here in New York City. It looks absolutely breathtaking from inside. If anybody's a member of the University Club and you watch the streams, we'd be more than happy to hang out in here. Just kidding. But I mean, if you want to invite us, would be totally honored. I would be honored. Serious. Andy J, welcome. Good to see you. There's always that argument between the new, more modern architecture and the older style architecture. And I think I like the more classic architecture, very similar to what we see in the Stephen Schwarzman building. That type of, I would say, facade or architecture tends to be my favorite. But what are your thoughts? Do you prefer modern architecture or more of like a St. Thomas Church-esque architecture in New York? Cynthia Beals, my friend, is a member of the New York Athletic Club. Often they have reciprocal visits. Wow. Yeah, the New York Athletic Club is very beautiful as well. And this is a very famous hotel right here, the St. Regis Hotel. So DJ Mike says, I like a little bit of both. Yeah, Eric 12 says, depends on how I feel. Yeah, Mike sees his classic timeless architecture any day of the week. Tom says, I prefer classical architecture, but dig the modern scaffolding. I think you're the first person who's complimented scaffolding on the stream. Some people like it, some people don't. WW, I've heard it is very difficult in New York, but then again, I don't really participate in any of that activity. Wow, check this out. War Walker says 2,000 quid a night. So we're going to walk further uptown on 5th Avenue, where we are going to check out the Apple Store. So the Apple Store is actually open 24/7, but one of the coolest things about it is you could actually view inside the Apple Store from the street view. It's actually kind of cool. I'll show you guys what I mean. But Monday after the bell closes, I will be sending out the Behind the Street newsletter, which is a 100% free financial newsletter that I write for everybody. Once a week, we cover the U.S. equities markets, we cover the housing market, international markets, emerging markets. So if you type !news, N-E-W-S, in the chat, the Nightbot will drop the link to the Behind the Street newsletter. If you punch in your email, you will receive it for free and get all of our updates. But this building right here is 432 Park Avenue, which is one of the famous buildings on Billionaires Row in Manhattan. But if you look up 432 Park Avenue, you'll actually see tons and tons of issues, litigation, lawsuits. So the developers did a horrible job. This guy's going to get it. The developers did a horrible job building the building. So if you actually read some of the articles there, the elevators sway, the building sways, it creaks, it's so loud. There's electrical fires, there's water leaking from the ceiling. And all while these people are spending $12 million to $80 million on an apartment, they're having these types of issues. So check that out, 432 Park Avenue. I think you're going to get a kick out of reading some of the articles because, I mean, if I'm spending $80 million on an apartment, I definitely don't want the ceiling to be leaking every day. But now, we are standing outside of the Trump Tower. This is one of Donald Trump's main towers here in New York City. And I believe his main residence is still in the top floor. Yeah, Elliot Wave Reviews says, Tom, the U.S. Post Office near the Port Authority is the nicest building I find. It reminds me of ancient Roman architecture. Con I am says, I don't want to read about millionaire problems they could go to. Funny. You got a good point, though. Alright, so we are going to now cross 57th Street, which is officially considered Billionaires Row. Hey, Joe C., thank you so much. Much appreciated. I'll give you guys one more look down 57th Street this way. So we're standing right at 5th Avenue, 57th Street. This is the brand new Tiffany. Well, this was always Tiffany & Co., but they're totally remodeling it. Hey, Daniel G. is joining us from Buenos Aires, Argentina. Good to see you, Daniel, and thank you everybody from Argentina for joining. So we're coming up to the Plaza Hotel, 58th Street and 5th Avenue. If you look to the right of your screen, you'll see the Apple Store. And we'll be met with a beautiful view of Central Park South, where we could see 220 Central Park South, which is the Billionaires Tower that financier Ken Griffin from Citadel owns the top 3 floors. And we see some of the dogwood trees that are blooming here. Hey, WW, thank you for joining. Much appreciated, WW. So everybody, check this out. So right here, you can see the Plaza Hotel, very famous hotel here in New York. This very tall building is the Steinway building. But this building right behind it with sort of white top is the brand new Central Park Tower, which is my personal favorite addition to Billionaires Row. I think it is the best building. But now let's cross the street and let's check out the Apple Store. WW, thank you so much for joining. I hope you have a good night and very productive week to start the week on Monday. So this Apple Store is open 24/7, 365. Apple, ticker symbol AAPL. You know, Apple is actually just coming off an amazing quarter. They just posted their largest revenue-producing quarter in company history. And Apple is really considered as the stock market darling now, because if we think about the S&P 500 by market capitalization, Apple almost makes up 7% of the entire S&P 500. That's how much of a Goliath Apple is. But if you notice, you see all these little mushroom-looking things. If you actually look down into them, you'll see the Apple Store below. So I'll show you what I'm talking about here. So you could actually get a glimpse into the Apple Store and see people shopping, see what's going on in there. And then once you're done with all your shopping, you have a beautiful view right here of the very famous Plaza Hotel, which is actually under construction, hence all of the scaffolding here. Heartland Explorer says, hey Tom, hope all is well. I've been AFK for a while, setting up my move to Denver. Super pumped, good to be back on the channel. Hey, love Denver. I was actually looking to acquire an investment property in Denver. I think that is going to be a big, big tech town as we move further into this decade. Love Denver, Colorado. So here we have the Dior store. So we'll check out what it looks like in here. Doesn't look like there's many people in that one. Let's see about over here. But this is open 24/7 if you want to get your shopping done. And the wind is picking up. And then you could see the spiral staircase down. And then you could purchase all your products, get serviced and everything like that under here. And this is open 24 hours a day. So if you want to buy an iPhone at 3 o'clock in the morning, you could do that here. I think this is where they sell all the Apple Watches on this side. Alright, so let's walk down Central Park South. And I'm going to show you guys some really interesting buildings here. But Central Park, this is the very start of Central Park. So 59th Street is the very southern side or the start of Central Park. And if you go all the way to 110th Street Cathedral Parkway on 110th, that is the conclusion of Central Park. Yeah, I'm not sure we're allowed to record inside the Apple Store. Hey, Banks says, I worked there. There was fountains on the plaza that would make it rain in the store. Wow, no way. That's crazy. Hey, Wendy England says, you need to walk the High Line, Tom. Yeah, we definitely will. Maybe we'll try to do that one of these days, for sure. High Line is beautiful. Yeah, Johnny Johnson says FAO Schwartz used to be there. It did. I remember going there as a kid. But now that is closed down. So they moved the FAO Schwartz to Rockefeller Center, I believe. But here's the very front of the Plaza Hotel. Which is under intense renovations. One of my favorite things about the plaza, though, are these chandeliers. Check out just the craftsmanship on these. Unreal. You have Philly. This is Home Alone Hotel. You were right, we are standing outside right now. Hey, Marty Lewis is here. Says hello, Tom and everybody. Good to see you, Marty. Hope you enjoyed your weekend. Hope everything went well for you. Con Iams has got 99 problems. Wow, check that out. Mike Cease, didn't FAO close a few years and then reopen? I think it did. I've only been there a couple times. Mary Kay says, good to see you, Mary Kay. So now we are headed towards the Deutsche Bank Towers, formerly known as the Time Warner Centers. No longer. But this is the shops at the plaza. Brian says, hey Tom, what's the fanciest hotel you've been to on a business trip? Probably, that's a good question. Probably one of the Four Seasons, I think. You know, there is a hotel that I want to stay in called the Mandarin Oriental. Supposedly that one's really nice, but I mean, I have no reason to spend like $1,000 a night on hotel. I think that's kind of ridiculous. But this is the Park Lane Hotel, which is actually brand new and renovated. Sabrina Ferris says, love the Mandarin. So, Sabrina, did you stay in the Mandarin Oriental in New York, or have you stayed in the one in Miami? Supposedly there's one, a really nice one, on Brickell Key in Miami. And here are a couple more views of the Billionaires Row towers here. More specifically looking at the Steinway building. NAV says, are you by the UBS building? Yeah, we actually just passed the UBS building a little while ago on the stream. So let's see how much this stuff goes for, everybody. So sale price $2.5 million for 5 rooms, 2 bedrooms? Oh, 2 bedroom, 2 bathrooms. It's actually not that bad. $2.5 million, 1,600 square feet. So this is 40 Central Park South, apartment 9H. 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. The rent is $7,950. Crazy. That's a little bit expensive. But I think if we all chip in on the chat, I think we'll be able to do it. And then this is the Quality Italian here, or Quality Meats, I believe. Yeah, War Walker says, I'll take it.
Get the doggy, buddy.
Yeah, I've done that.
That's the first thing you gotta take.
That guy almost forgot his dog in the car. All right, so now this is 58th Street and Avenue of the Americas. Eric 1212, I do. From time to time, we do. So in the Behind the Street newsletter, Eric, we do oftentimes cover emerging markets. Wow, this place closed down. That is so crazy. So this is my old building, but we used to have like a very fancy store here where you could buy all sort of knickknacks for your apartment, and it closed down. Wow. Crazy. I used to walk past this every day. That's nuts. I can't believe that. That's insane. So this is the same block that 157 is on. And speaking of finance, billionaire Bill Ackman, which is the hedge fund manager of Pershing Square Investments, I believe he bought one of the top floor penthouses in 157. I believe he paid over $80 million for it too. I'm not sure of the exact sale price. Maybe somebody in the chat could look it up. But billionaire Bill Ackman. We'll see his place very soon here. Iowa Oak, good to see you as always. Hope you're well. Iowa Oak. You know, there used to be a big protest here on this street because the city wants to make a homeless shelter right next to 157. Right here in the very old hotel. I'll show you guys. And a lot of the residents were very upset. So in this old hotel here, this is actually going to be, I believe, a men's only homeless shelter in the Park Savoy Hotel. They're going to make it right here. But look what's right next to it. The Billionaires Row Tower of 157. And then this one right here is my personal favorite, which is Central Park Tower, which is one of the newest additions to Billionaires Row. Right next to the JW Marriott Essex House. John, good to see you. Oh, check out all these cellos and violins here. Hey, Richard says, hey man, how are you? Nice to watch you again. My name is Richard and I live in Brazil. Thank you, Richard, for joining us from Brazil. Much appreciated. Wow, this store is beautiful. NMB 045. Yeah, so 432 Park Avenue had some problems. .432 Park had a lot of issues with electrical problems, with the roof leaking in many of the apartments and things like that. But now we are passing the very famous New York Athletic Club. And this building is very famous too. Look at the architecture on this building here. And then in this shot you could see Central Park Tower, and then 220 Central Park South is the one with the gold top. And then if you look straight ahead, you could see Central Park. And then down this way is Times Square. All right, everybody, so once we hit Broadway, we are actually going to walk downtown back to the Moynihan train station. But I wanted to show you guys the entrance to Central Park Tower, which is one of my favorite additions to Billionaires Row. Also 220 Central Park South, which is right here as well. So here is the entrance to 220 Central Park South, one of the most prestigious addresses in New York City, which is right here. And check out how far up it goes. And this is home to Ken Griffin of Citadel Securities, which is a quantitative trading firm on Wall Street. And check out the courtyard, beautiful there. .220 Central Park South. And then right next to it, this is Central Park Tower. Mike C says the gate is even fancy. So now we'll be able to see Columbus Circle, 59th Street. This is actually where I used to go to college, right over here. Hey, Colleen T, welcome. Good to see you. John, thank you so much for joining tonight, John. And we are now 59th Street and Broadway, which is Columbus Circle. So I'll give you one more shot of our pal Ken Griffin at Citadel. .220 Central Park South, and now we'll head downtown back to the Moynihan train station. Hey, Cindy Foley says good night and be safe. Thank you, Tom, for showing us all the buildings with the beautiful architecture. Thank you, Cindy Foley, for joining. I appreciate it. Samantha R says walks from Wall Street, no way. I go to college near there also. Very cool. Yeah, it was a good time. Good time for sure. Frank Gonzalez says, how are you, Tom? Do you follow Ryan Serhant, real estate guy? I do. Very good sales guy, very sharp. Sissa says, oh man, I used to work on 59th between 5th and 6th. I miss the nostalgia and the scenery. Yeah, this is definitely one of my favorite parts of town for sure. And then this is close to the Brooklyn Diner. So this is 157. And then this big building is Central Park Tower. Hey, Abdullah, welcome. So this is Universal Music Group to the right. Could we just get a quick time check in the chat? I just want to make sure I am right on time to get my train. Philly, I did attend John Jay. I went to the John Jay College of Criminal Justice, a CUNY school in the City University of New York. Samantha R says, love the Brooklyn Diner. Easy Andy, welcome. Sabrina Fair says it's 11:14. All right, I think we're right on time. We may have to pick up the pace a little bit to get the train. But other than that, I think we're right on time. So I think we covered a lot on the stream today. Also, just to piggyback off of the stream 2 nights ago, we were talking about AI, artificial intelligence. So there was a really good article in the Wall Street Journal talking about drone deliveries. So Amazon is starting a pilot program, and there's many other startup companies that are partnering with Walgreens, partnering with Walmart, and even Whole Foods for drone deliveries. Yes, so if you want to, sit at your house and not have to get up out of your chair, drive to the pharmacy and pick up your medicine, you could actually call a drone. So in some places of Arkansas, what they're going to do is do a pilot program with Walgreens to where you'll be able to order all of your medication via drone, and a drone will actually bring it to your residence. I am Con says FAA will not approve it. So they already did approve some of it. I was going to drop the link in the chat with the Nightbot, but that is a big concern. So the FAA needs to approve a lot of these drone prototypes, and a lot of them are already approved for pilot programs, mainly in middle America and flyover states. And you may ask, well, why is that? Well, because, I mean, imagine if you had drones flying around in New York City, crashing into buildings and things like that. Probably not the best idea, but I think as technology advances, I think we're going to see drones via delivery become the norm within 10 years. NYC's pilot program, pun intended. That's a good one. That's funny. So here we have The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. Emilio J is here. Welcome, Emilio. Yeah, so Google is already doing that. You're totally right. Cosmo Scary says drones are noisy, though. So there's specific patent, and I wish I linked the article. But for all of you who receive the Wall Street Journal every weekend, it was one of the biggest stories. And there's extreme progress going on with drone technology. And I truly believe that within 10 years, we're going to have drone delivery be the standard. Eric says the problem of drone is when they crash, they could crash into someone. Yep, that is true. Yeah, but I think you could make the same argument, right, about a car. Cars crash into people and kill people all the time. I think it's just as technology evolves, things improve and things get better. But, you know, I think the government is doing the right thing by allowing pilot programs to happen. So do it in a controlled environment, collect as much data as possible, and then start to launch it nationwide. But you do make a good point. You know, you don't want the drone crash landing in somebody's yard or hitting somebody's car. But those are definitely objections that need to be overcome. And I think that's why companies spend billions of dollars a year lobbying. Yeah, Brian says drones can be dangerous if used for evil. I agree. Mike says, can't imagine drone delivery being cost effective anytime soon. Yeah, probably not anytime soon, but, you know, I was actually looking at some of the data, and I think it's actually going to be really effective, especially to cut down on some of the emissions. Because if you think about it, drones are all going to be battery operated. So could you imagine if we could just reduce 25 to 30% of the street traffic from DoorDash and all these things? That's going to reduce a lot of the emissions. Cynthia Beale says, what is the distance on the drones? So I'm not sure the exact distance. I wish I could drop the link of that Wall Street Journal article. But if you guys Google Wall Street Journal drones, I'm sure it's going to be the first thing that pops up. Hey, Elizabeth is here. Is this Hey Tom? How's it going? Good to see you, Elizabeth. Thank you for being here. So this is the Stardust Diner as we head towards Times Square and eventually down to the Moynihan train station. Yeah, Marcelo, I think you're right. There's definitely going to have to be a lot of regulatory approvals, but, you know, knowing Amazon, they're probably just going to spend $1 billion and just lobby the government and get what they want. I think that's probably what'll happen. Hey, Roland T, good to see you, my friend. Falcon Space. Yeah, Mike says maybe drone deliveries from rooftops. So Mike says, here's something interesting out of Walgreens. So what Walgreens is doing in Arkansas is they're going to allocate 2 parking spots to a specific drone company that partners with Walgreens to deliver drugs to customers. The drone companies are going to rent the space from Walgreens and make money on delivering the drones. And I think it's a good idea to start in more rural places like Arkansas, right, for obvious reasons. But Walmart is getting really, really big into drone delivery as well in places like North Carolina. Yeah, Iowa Oak, I've seen those as well. I've seen those YouTube videos where people are flying drones through New York City. Those are probably some of my favorite videos online, to be quite honest with you. All right, so now we are walking down Broadway, and we should hit into 48th Street very soon. Santo Domingo says hello from the Dominican Republic. Love the Dominican Republic. Would love to go visit sometime. Mike C says, how does they verify the prescription is the right person? I'm sure they have protocols in place. Or the pharmacist would probably walk outside to the drone and then give the all clear to go autonomously deliver it to the customer, probably. But I don't know, those are all good questions. Those are all really good questions. Yeah, imagine if a drone, you just see a random drone drop a bunch of medicine off at your house. You're like, what? Hey, Roberta says hello from Brazil. Good to see you. Yeah, you're right. So according to the signage, there's an Amazon drone facility being built in North Carolina. Chips and dips as people are going to shoot down the drones. So the Wall Street Journal article actually interviewed a lot of these drone companies, and they said out of 300,000 successful deliveries, not one drone has been shot at or shot down. And the reason for that is because it's a felony in the United States to shoot at any aircraft, even a drone. So you could go to jail for over 10 years for shooting at a drone. Yes, Stefano says it's unreal. Zipline is parachuting packages down. Yeah, guys, you got to check out that Wall Street Journal article. It is unreal. The company Zipline essentially drops off your package like they drop off a bomb. It's crazy. It's crazy what's going to happen. All right, so we are now in the thick of it, my friends. This is Times Square, the center of the universe. Hello from Morocco. Good to see you. Hey, photos from around New York. Our one and only moderator, thank you for joining photos. Is what did I miss? So we did a market to look ahead. We covered a lot today. A lot of economic data coming out over the next couple days. We're going to hear from the bank in Australia. I believe on Tuesday we're hearing that in terms of rates. The Reserve Bank of Australia. I believe on Tuesday we will hear from them, but probably just going to be more along the lines of artificially low interest rates and more easy money. But good to see you. Photos. Broadcom is also having their Investor Day. Yeah, so I'm seeing a really good question here. Says Chris, do you think New York City will convert offices to housing? I think they will. They're already doing that down on Wall Street. So many of the old Wall Street office buildings are actually converted to apartments, one of which is 110 Wall Street. So that is a very notable address. (110) Wall Street, and I forget the other one. I think it's 92 Wall Street.
That's what you told me. Tell him to come here. Shh, it's over, man. It's over.
Hey, Eric1212 says Walks on Wall Street. What do you think of Delivery by Android by Walk? What do you mean by that, Eric? Let me see. Alright, I think we gotta put a little bit of hustle in our step so I can make the train. But if you want to connect with us on Twitter, you can follow at Walks Wall Street. That is where we post a lot of our more financial stuff, so equity research and the like. Hey, Sunshine, New York, what's up? This is 11:27. All right, I think we're going to be right on time. We're actually probably just going to make it as the doors close on the good old Long Island Railroad. Emilio J, good to see you, my friend. Jason Francis, as always, thank you for joining. Chris says, thank you for answering and showing us a live view in New York City. Chris, thank you for being here. Much appreciated. So tomorrow, I think, is going to be the last day before I fly out for the Bitcoin conference. So I want to try to be live from the Mighty Bull downtown on Broadway near Wall Street. So be on the lookout for that. Hopefully I will try to be down there. H2O Dave is here. Good to see you, H2O Dave. Welcome. Tatiana Olivier is here. Says hello. Good to see you. The wind is picking up here. I'm not sure if you guys can see all the trash blowing around. All right, and here we have the New York City Police Department here in Times Square. Hey, Just Two Flies says, love your streams. Thank you for joining tonight. Much appreciated. So we'll take a look at the NASDAQ building and then we'll end it because I do have to conserve my battery. Oh, so speaking of robots, did anybody see the new robots from Boston Dynamics that the FDNY, the New York City Fire Department, is going to deploy to smell different types of gases and things like that? I thought it was so interesting that the FDNY is actually now buying robots, the Boston Dynamic robots. But everybody, I just wanted to say thank you for joining tonight. We will see you all tomorrow. Make it a good start to Q2. So Q1 is in the books. Q2 officially starts, well, it already started, but it officially starts. The full first week of Q2 starts tomorrow. So I'm wishing you all a happy, healthy, safe Q2 and successful Q2. On Monday afternoon after the market closes, I will be sending out the 20th edition of the Behind the Street newsletter. If you want to sign up for the free financial newsletter, if you type !news, NEWS, in the chat, look out for the link that the Nightbot will drop. If you punch in your email, we'll send it to you for free where you can keep up to date on our financial topics from the streams. All of our moderators, thank you for joining. Samantha R., Eric1212, The Beard Spare, Vinny Castellano, Cosmo Scary, Abdullah, Sunshine, New York, and everybody in the chat, thank you for joining tonight. It was a great stream, great conversation. Make it a good week. Join us in the Discord. Follow us at Walks Wall Street on Twitter. And I will see you all in the next one. To the mighty bull, have a good night wherever you are, because there is always a bull market somewhere, and you just need to know where to look. And I'll see everybody right here in the greatest city on earth tomorrow. Have a good one.